is Grisna. She's due for a shave. So I'm going to be shaving her while I talk about today's video. Now, I often get people saying how wire mesh flooring is terrible for your bunnies. I tend to try and reply every time to explain my point of view on things, but I thought what the heck, I just got a comment like that on one of my previous videos, and I figured, well, you know, I guess it's time to make a proper video talking about it. Now, keep in mind, I would never recommend wire flooring to a single pet bunny or like a couple pet bunnies. Pet bunnies, when you have a small amount of them, you can do indoor flooring. They can be free roam in your house. That's not an issue. Like if they make messes, it's easy to clean up. The problem is that when you have a lot of bunnies, now I'm talking 10 or more, and you have health issues yourself, it gets harder and harder and harder to maintain everything. So at that point, you have to think what is best and the best compromise for the health of all of your rabbits. Now, you would think perfect flat bottom would be great, right? Well, the issue with that is that some bunnies, especially fluffy ones, will get really gross back here because they sit in it, and that can cause fly strike, and that can actually make them sick. They can get fungus if you don't keep it perfectly clean. As I said, with pet bunnies, only a few pet bunnies, you get pet clean. That's fine. But when you have a lot of bunnies, that's unrealistic, okay? Unless you're perfectly healthy and it's the only thing you have to do, it's unrealistic to think, oh, I'm gonna keep everything perfect. Each bunny is gonna have a castle and a lot of room, and you know, I'll keep everything super clean like every hours. Bunnies are messy. They're gonna pee and poop in their water bowl all the time. You're gonna change the water. There's gonna be poop in it 5 minutes later. Okay? That's just the reality of bunnies. That's just how it is. Anyone who tells you otherwise have never owned a bunny. Okay? So you gotta keep that in mind. And knowing that, one thing that's very important is to keep the environment clean. Because of fungi, the poop and pee can cause clumps that will harbor bacteria. They can get fly strife from it. They can get actually just sick in general from a really bad environment. That will look like intense diarrhea, which can be deadly within 2 days, or bloating. And why do I say that? Because I've seen it. Not on my rabbits, but when I started rabbits, I frequented a friend who had a different breed. And for her, wood flooring was the best solution in her case, but it had the issue of struggling to keep clean enough that the bunnies don't get sick from it. And especially when it's a litter with a lot of babies, no matter how big the cage was, they all tend to frequent the same area, and the cage gets really dirty really fast. And just one day can get dirty enough to where they can get sick from it. And she has lost many bunnies, especially babies, in those types of situations because of that. But again, in her case, that was still the type of flooring that was the best for her rabbits. She had issues, yes, but that was that. Now I'm gonna go through each type of flooring you could imagine, um, one at a time. Like this is just in general. Um, so let's start with like smooth surfaces, like wood flooring inside a house, um, or any type of indoor floor type deal. Um, Plastic cage button, like the cages with the plastic flat bottoms. I have several of those. I'm including those. Um, and yeah, that would be that for this category. Now, that category is fine for an adult and a limited amount of bunnies, and having a lot of time to clean. Because, yeah, you need to clean a lot. Some bunnies, you'll be able to have a litter box, they're going to be able to use it. Me, my cages, I function with a clear bottom cage in those cages because I have a few, especially in my room. Um, those cages, I don't put anything at the bottom of the cage. Now, everyone's gonna see the cliche of putting wood chips. Those, for a fluffy bunny, are the worst thing you can do for your rabbit, because fluffy bunnies are gonna end up with so many mats. It's just, no, terrible. It's terrible for them. Um, you cannot have a fluffy, long fur bunny in like wood chip stuff, okay? And using recycled paper litter boxes in a litter box, that's okay. That's what I do. But if you think using that for the whole cage, that's very expensive to do because you waste a lot of it at once. That's like one bag for one cage, depending on the size of your cage. And that's very, very expensive. Doable if you only have one or two cages and you're willing to spend the money on it. When you have more than that, that's way too much money. Okay? That's unsustainable. So really, that's that. Now, as I said, I have a few of those cages. I don't like having baby bunnies in them. Now, why? Well, it's actually really bad for them. One, they don't understand the concept of a litter box yet, until like they can start understanding it about 1 month of age, but before that they don't understand it, so they're just gonna poop and pee everywhere. So you constantly have to clean that. Now, yeah, if you had a litter throughout the whole thing and wood chips throughout the whole thing, that would be minimized. But again, long fur, even at 3 weeks old, it can be an issue. And so I really, really, really don't like it. They can also breathe in some small particles from that stuff, and that can cause issues with respiratory distress and whatnot. Does it mean it's always going to happen? Does it mean that anyone who has that type of setup and has chosen that type of setup is going to have those issues? No, not necessarily. And in some cases, for some people, they might consider that the best thing to do. But as I said, all situations are different for everyone. And in my case, I really don't like baby bunnies in flat bottom cages. The other issue on smooth surfaces that happens, like indoor house flooring, um, flat bottom cages, they cannot walk. Young babies do not have the strength to keep their limbs under them. And if they're on a surface that's too slippery, what's gonna happen is they're gonna keep slipping, so they're gonna struggle a lot to move around. But also, their legs are gonna go like this, and they can get permanent deformities called splayed legs, and that's horrible in my opinion. Which is the number one reason I do not want baby bunnies in those cages. Now I have one cage that's a plastic bottom, but it has like a grid texture on it. Now that cage is fine, although it's a lot of cleaning, as I mentioned. But they can actually walk on it thanks to that texture, so that's okay to do. But as I said, lots of cleaning because they don't understand the concept of litter boxes. Um, then, what else? What would be next? Carpet, foam boards, anything you think soft and you would think would be good for them is actually really bad. Why? Well, they're gonna love walking on it. So as a temporary thing, like if you're having carpet in your house, or like a carpet in the middle of the room or something, they're gonna love it. They're gonna hang out on it all the time. But there's a few issues. They are gonna get soiled because poop and pee, yeah, especially on babies, yeah. Also, impaction. They're gonna chew on it. I guarantee you. They're gonna eat some of it. I guarantee you. I've seen it. And you can look online and know about that. So that's also that. And although it's soft, carpet can cause sore hucks. You wouldn't believe that. You'd think like smooth surfaces are what causes sore hucks. No, carpet is actually too much friction and it's gonna cause sore hucks. Foam boards are gonna be fine though. That's just an issue with carpet. So that's carpet. Again, carpet for a pet bunny that you can keep extremely clean, that's very clean with his litter box. It's gonna be nice. They're gonna love it. If you have a lot of bunnies, if you have babies, unsustainable, uncleanable. It's just no. What's next? Wood. Wood. Now there's two variations. Either just solid wood or planks with a small space in between. Now the small space in between, anyone that has issue with wire flooring should have issue with those space in between on wood panels because they can actually get stuck more easier between two planks. They're gonna get stuck, especially their toes, more on two planks with a space than on wire mesh. Why is that? Well, bunny lays down, toe goes in because it's a big line, so it's easy for the toes to go in, and then they get up, they want to move a different direction, and then they're stuck. While with wire flooring, you'd think that would happen a lot, and yes, it can happen. I've seen it. I've heard stories, especially one where like a baby bunny stuck his back leg all the way through and got stuck there. Now, accidents happen, but for me, I've never seen that happen with wire mesh. But I've seen it happen with planks with a space in between. And planks with a space in between is not going to keep things as clean as you think it might. Because the issue with a solid wood flooring is going to be keeping things clean. Because unlike smooth surfaces like plastic or flooring, you can't really clean it because the wood's going to absorb stuff. So by the time you clean it, the wood has already soaked up a lot of pee. So it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. So the only way to battle that is to try to keep everything as dry as possible. But unless it's just a small piece of wood, that's not gonna happen. If it's a solid flooring, everything liquid, whether it's the water bowl that got spilled or pee or is gonna be stuck there, and get absorbed through the wood. And I say that assuming you'd be cleaning daily, okay? I'm saying like just a couple hours between something happening and you being able to clean it, it's already soaking in the wood, okay? So long term, that's really, really bad. And eventually, you have to replace wood, okay? Now, replacing wood, when you have only a couple cages, not a big issue. Replacing wood when you have a lot of cages, expensive and very problematic, okay? And now, the cleanliness part and keeping things dry part. You'd think that the space between planks would work for that, but no. Sorry, I have fluff in my nose. Why not? Well, the larger the space between the planks, the higher the risk of a bunny getting stuck there. Especially if it's a baby, they can actually get their whole leg stuck in there. Now, that's that. So the larger the spaces, the more risk it entails. But then you think, okay, well, keep the boards small and then the space is small. Well, the problem is, the bigger the poop, it's not gonna go through those cracks. And my friend, well, she had planks with space in between. She was doing continental giants, which are very big meat breed. And in her case, for wire flooring is not an option. I'll explain later. And she had a lot. She had like 3 times what I have. Okay. And so keeping everything clean was an issue. And she was very busy with work. She was healthy, unlike me, but she was extremely busy with work. So she couldn't spend 5 hours deep cleaning every cages, okay? Now, I'm not making excuses for her. She should have cleaned more, because sometimes she wouldn't clean for a week. That's beside the point. I'm just saying, I babysat her bunnies for several weeks and at a time, and I was cleaning daily while I was doing that. And I can tell you, especially on cages with a lot of babies, yeah, it was an issue. And then the space between the cracks of the planks becomes, like, especially if they have diarrhea or don't eat their keckles and the grape of keckles gets stuck between the planks. Bunnies have 2 types of poop. Keckles is like a very sticky kind, so it gets glued to everything. And if that gets between the planks, it becomes harder and harder and harder to clean between the cracks, and eventually you're not gonna have cracks, which is the whole point of that design. So that's that. So bottom flooring, wood, full wood, or planks with a space has cleanliness issues, and eventually they can actually chew through the floor, because bunnies are gonna chew wood, so they can chew through the floor. So eventually, if you don't change the wood, not just for sanitary purposes but also for maintenance, yeah. But then when you have a lot of cage, oftentimes the cages are not really easy to have access to the bottom of the cages. So that can also become an issue. Now, that is going to change for anyone. In my friend's case, as I said, the planks with a space was the best for her bunnies. For me, no. Especially with babies, especially with fluffies, because fluffies are gonna gather stuff that stays there all the time. Okay. Um, yeah, you're gonna chew the towel. That's fine. What's next? Are we at wire mesh? I think we are. No, we're gonna go concrete next. Concrete has this very similar issues to wood with one added issue. Okay, so we're talking issues with cleaning, because concrete does absorb liquids, so that goes with the same as that's the same issue as wood. They do walk easy on it, but concrete is very harsh on their feet, so they can get very easily sore hocks. But also, bunnies chew, and they have a really strong bite. So you wouldn't think it, but they're gonna chew on the thing, and eventually they're gonna grab pieces, and they're gonna eat pieces, and that can cause infections. Bunnies are silly, okay? But I've seen it happen. So I would not recommend concrete at all. Wood is better than concrete. Full wood would be better than concrete. Now, after that, soil. Now, some people have like naturistic rabbitries where like they have secured the bottom of the cage, but then they have dirt throughout, or they have the grass from the field or something, but the bottom has been protected so they can't dig out. That is actually really bad, more than you would think. Why? Well, if the soil is too humid from pee, poop, rain, being in a place that doesn't drain enough, you run into the issue of sanitarity, keeping things clean. So that's an issue. So like what can happen, the problem with soil even more is that you can't really change it, because it's like, okay, yeah, you can like dig up the first feet or so and then put new stuff, but again, people that do ground rabbitries don't normally have that. Like, they don't really change the ground. And the issue is, once it's contaminated with something deadly, people can lose entire colonies of rabbits to it. And afterwards, even if you have so even if like you stopped having bunnies for several years after having such an issue, the ground is still contaminated. So if you try to put bunnies there again later, they're gonna get sick again. So ground, for sanitary reason, if it's too humid, is very problematic. So you'd think, well, then make sure the ground drains properly. Well, thing is, that's still gonna happen in the zone where they go pee a lot, and it's still gonna happen when it rains, you know. But then, okay, if by any means you made sure that it drains properly, then you're gonna have the opposite issue, because your ground is often gonna be too dry. Now, what happens if it's too dry? Dust particles. Bunnies will breathe in that dust, and they will get respiratory issues. And they can, like, while they're eating, they're gonna eat some dirt. They can get infected from it. So it has its all set of issues. Thing is about dirt, yeah, the bunnies are gonna enjoy it because they're gonna be able to play by digging and running easy, but it has its own health issues, and it's very, very expensive and a lot of work to set up a safe, properly secured area for bunnies so that they don't get away by digging and whatnot, or so, or that predators could get in through a tunnel or whatnot, you know. Um, and like people that have ground rabbitries like that, often there's no protection from the sky. So if you're in an area that has eagles or larger falcon breeds, you can lose them to that. If you have predators like cats, foxes, and even a raccoon, they can climb fences and get in through the top, or they can get in through the bottom if you've not secured everything properly. I live in a forest. That is not doable. I live in a forest with very stony ground. Like there's stone everywhere. Securing the floor, unless I made like raised platform, then secured that, and then added dirt to have like a raised garden ground type deal, that's a lot of work. And as I said, it has the other health hazards that I mentioned already. So, now we're at wire meshes. Now, wire meshes, it's clean. It's very easy to keep clean. Yes, sometimes poop will get stuck if the poop is too big for the holes. If it's cackles, it'll stick. It can get clogged with hay and whatnot. But it's so easy to clean because you just have to pick it up if you can. Otherwise, you can use a shovel to scrape it off, and the holes don't get plugged. So if you do that. So if you keep it clean daily, wire mesh is amazing. And the pee doesn't stay. Now, with fluffy bunnies, all the previous type of floorings had the issue of wetness. Pee ending up in the cage and not being clean for too long. And that, with fluffy bunnies, they soak it up, okay? And that's what happens. Look at gross that is. Now, she's normally outside on wire flooring, but I've had her inside on one of my flat bottom cages for 2 days, and that already happened. Now, I wasn't worried about it because I knew I was gonna shave her. Like even if I don't finish today, I'll finish tomorrow or something. So, you know, it's a temporary issue that's gonna be resolved. But for long term, if I wanted to keep her fluffy, no. So, wire mesh keeps everything dry without particles that like dry dirt would be, without absorbing anything like wood or concrete would do. And as for the argument, it's bad for their feet. Depends on the type of rabbit you have. Okay? If you have a meat breed, really big rabbits, she looks big, but it's because she's fluffy. Okay? She's about 6 pounds. I weighed her like only a month ago, so she's like 6.5. My heaviest bunny is my pure English Angora Pepper, and she weighs 7.25. But as soon as you get 10 pounds, 9 pounds, and up, no wire flooring. Okay? Why? They're so heavy that the thin wire flooring will cut through their feet, so that is a big no-no. Wire mesh for meat breeds, a giant no-no. Um, but for smaller breeds, that is not an issue unless the bunny has a certain weakness, and that is going to depend on the bunny itself. It's not going to be a major thing. You just have to know your bunnies. And I say that because Soma is my tricolor boy. He's, last time I weighed him, I think he was 4 pounds. But he has a high tendency of getting sore hucks. For randomly, like it's not, he's just prone to it. So he cannot stay on the wire for too long. I can put him on wire for like a week or two, but no more than that, otherwise sore hucks. But that's him. I've never had the issue with any of my other bunnies. Now, wire mesh for babies, is it bad? You can have the accident of like the leg getting stuck, but that, I've never seen it on my bunnies, and I've had bunnies since 2015. And even if you look online, it's like, okay, you're gonna have everyone saying it's bad because that can happen. No, I mean, look for it actually happening to someone with proof. I've only seen it one time. And that's through a lot of research and being on bunny forums and all the weird stuff. The thing about the ground being contaminated, that's from the one of the bunny forums that I saw. So you know, I know these things because I've done my research, you know, over the years, and I've been in contact with other people that have other situations where those are the better solution for them, but it comes with its own drawbacks, you know. And so that's why I say meat breeds, you do not put on wire mesh. Bunnies that are somehow genetically prone health-wise to get sore hucks, you do not put on wire mesh. Otherwise, healthy 7-pound and less bunnies can be on wire mesh. And yeah, don't put your pet bunny, your one pet bunny on wire mesh. Come on. The one pet bunny, the 1 or 2 pet bunny, those, they should be treated like princes and princesses, okay? They should be treated like royalty. You don't put those on mesh. I'm talking as a breeder, okay? And as a breeder, for me, you get stuff in my nose. So for me, I found that wire mesh is the best in general for most situation in my case. Why? Well, I have very poor health. Sometimes I'm bedridden. I skip a day here and there because of that. Now the bunnies are fine, but if I wasn't there to clean and they're in a setup that requires cleaning, it can become an issue quickly. Now, even like skipping a day wouldn't be that much of an issue, but I've had periods of times where I'm bedridden for weeks, and I have to ask my father to take care of the bunnies for me. He will not clean the cages. He'll go in, he'll give water, he'll give food, and he'll leave. He won't pet them. He won't check if they're healthy, if something's wrong. They're not gonna pick it up. I pick up my bunnies weekly, at least. I mean, I have a lot, so, and some don't like being picked up. So the ones that don't like being picked up, I don't pick up very often because they don't like it. But I at least pet them daily, all of them. Give them a lot of love and attention, so I can feel if something's wrong with the bunny, and I'll take a look if I feel something, and then if I don't feel anything, well, the once a week I pick them up, I make sure to check everything so that I know if something's happening, you know. Doing that, being on top of it when my health allows, I've not had an issue. Okay? Now, when my dad handles the bunnies, he doesn't clean, as I said. So having wire flooring that keeps itself clean for the most of it is very important. For the sake of my bunnies' health, it's very important because they need stuff to stay clean. But also, I have a lot of fluffy bunnies. I have Angoras and I have very fluffy lion heads. And cleanliness for fluffy bunnies is very, 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 very important. Because if there's particles, even hay, it gets stuck in the fluff, they get matted. And I have too many bunnies to realistically just be brushing them every day. It's just, I have too many fluffy bunnies for that. And brushing every day or blowing, which is a technique where you use a hair blower, every day, for some people it would be doable. For me, it's not. I don't have the energy for that. So for me, I try and keep the environment clean, as best as I can. And I shave when the fluff gets too long or starts becoming an issue, which is what I'm doing now. So wire, is it bad for their feet? As I said, if they're light enough, if they're not prone to sore hocks, it's perfectly fine. I actually, like in my cages that I have wire, I've had some animal welfare people come over, and I didn't have planks in all the cages at that time, and all they did was ask me to put at least one shelf or one piece of wood in each cage, so that if they want to stay off the wood, they can. If they want to stay off the wire, they can. They have the option. I would say 80% of the time they stay on the wire, because it's fresher. Because here the air circulates under the cage, and wire mesh is essentially open. It's cooling for them. So especially in summer, they're gonna just lay down on the wire all the time. They'll climb on the shelves and sleep on the shelves more in winter for the opposite reason. The moms will be on the shelves a lot because they're gonna try to be getting away from their babies until the babies can climb again, and then they're stuck. But yeah, so the bunnies like it. Actually, they really like being on wire, and because it's easy to move, you would think they're gonna get stuck. It's holes and whatnot. No, they actually walk on it like a spider walks on a spider web. They can run. They're gonna binky, which is a very happy jump. They're gonna sleep on it. They're gonna do everything more on the wire than on the wood shelves. I promise.